This is a reminder of a simple Sufi allegory. It's that story about Yusuf. Now Yusuf was given a spade, so he became quite adept at shoveling. So it was not surprising that when it was found that the well that provided water for the villagers of his village was blocked. It was Yusuf they called on to see if he could find the cause of the blockage. Now the well was at the bottom of a mountain, and it was thought that perhaps a boulder had rolled down and rolled into the well, blocking the flow of water. So Yusuf came with his shovel, and he lowered himself down into the well. And he hadn't gone down very far when his feet came upon something quite solid, but it certainly did not feel like a rock under his feet. So he took his shovel and began to dig at what was beneath his feet. And all of a sudden, there were screams and wails coming out of that well. And a booming voice said, "Who is it who's digging into my head? Here I am, resting after thousands of years, keeping my feet cool in the water of this well. Here, let me reach up and eat you up." And as Yusuf's eyes became accustomed to the dark, he could see the red, gleaming eyes of a dev, a demon, long fangs coming out of the sides of his mouth. And Yusuf, responding, said, "Oh, Honorable Dev, I'm very, very, very sorry. I didn't realize what it was that I was doing." And the Dev said, "Well, I'm going to eat you up right now." And Yusuf said, "Well, isn't there something that I can do for you?" And the demon paused for a moment and said, "Well, I am thirsty and I am hungry." And Yusuf said, well, perhaps I can do something about that. And the demon said, "Well, go into town and bring me back a cartload of grapes and hurry up, because I'm very hungry and very thirsty." So Yusuf climbed out of the well and he went to the village, and in a meeting with the headman there, he told the headman what was happening, and that the Dev was demanding a cartload of grapes immediately. And so the headman said, "Well, what can we do? We have to provide what he's demanding." So he went round and asked all the villagers to bring the grapes off their vines, and these were summarily taken to the demon. And when Yusuf fed the grapes to him, he said, "Well, it's about time, because I'm very hungry and very thirsty." And after he'd satiated himself on this, the Dev said, Well, you're very lucky. I've saved your life." He said, "But tomorrow you have to bring me a cartload of melons." So Yusuf went off to the village and again told the headman, who was very distressed because the people not only did not have water to wash, do their washing and give to their children and cook their soups, etc. They were now going to lose all of their livelihood to this demon. So, but of course, summarily they gathered the melons and they were taken to the demon, who demolished them at a very fast rate knots and demanded more. He said, "Tomorrow you bring me a cartload of dates." Well, when Yusuf went off to tell the headman that this is what the Dev was demanding, the headman called a meeting of the people of the village to see if they could find some means of solving this diabolical problem. And it so happened that 3 of the elders who were there, who were known to be argumentative, disagreed with all that was being presented to them. So no solutions were found to the problem at all. So the next day, the cartload of dates was provided for the demon. But of course the demon made greater demands, saying that he would kill Yusuf. And Yusuf saying, well, if you kill me, none of the villagers are going to come near you, so you'll lose your means of being provided for. So the Dev was quite conciliatory, but this time he demanded that he be given the sweetmeat of the best halwa that the villagers could make. So with this demand, Yusuf went off to town to see the headman once again, but on the way he decided to stop for a cup of coffee at the coffee shop. And while he was sitting sipping his coffee, it so happened that an old dervish who had wandered into town approached Yusuf and said, "I hear that you have a problem with a demon in your well, and I have a solution to this problem if you will do exactly what I tell you to do." So Yusuf said, "Kind dervish, tell me what it is and I'll do immediately what it is that you suggest." So the dervish gave him the suggestion that he go out and gather certain herbs, and that he pound these herbs into a powder, and that when the halwa was made, that this powder should be sprinkled on every piece of halwa that was made by the villagers, and then fed to the demon. So Yusuf went to the headman, who of course bewailed the fact that not only had they lost all their fruit and their dates, but now all of their honey and the flour that would make the pastry for the halwa, etc., were taking the livelihoods of his people. But what could they do? The villagers set forth and made the halwa, and as the halwa was being collected in the cart by Yusuf, he very carefully sprinkled the powder on every piece of halwa that had been made. And so he took this to the demon in the well. And very, very quickly the demon demolished every single portion of halwa that had been provided. Now, of course, Yusuf wondered what on earth was going to happen after this. But what could he do? Because now the demon, being satiated, said rather sleepily to him, "Well, you've got to bring some more food for me tomorrow." But Yusuf went off about to leave, when all of a sudden he saw the head of the demon rise out of the top of the well, and the head was swelling at a great rate of knots. And as the body emerged, it got bigger and bigger like a conflated balloon. And suddenly, the whole demon, its talons, out of the cool water, so now inflated, floated up, out of the well, and up into the heavens. And before long, Yusuf heard an almighty explosion, and the demon was gone. So Yusuf raced into town to tell the head man, who told all of the villagers that the demon was gone. So, of course, there was great rejoicing, and Yusuf was given much, you know the word that I'm trying to think of. They were very happy at what Yusuf had achieved, and of course his future was assured from this act. But, you know, as was said the other day, it's not the usual practice to make interpretations of this story. But if we look at its meaning, could it be that all of us can relate to this story in relation to our experience of having our voice stifled, having our creativity blocked by the demon created out of the conditioning that might have been part of our youth? It's ventured to say that all of us have had this experience of having our creativity, our voice, even what could be called our spirit, stifled, our fire quelled by the conditioning of life. But what does this story tell us about how this demon is eradicated? What is the meaning of the dervish? Who is this dervish? What is it that was gathered that when sprinkled on all of that halwa, which could be the perceptions of our life, that destroyed this demon? How would you describe the remainder of this story? What's your story? How was it that the blockage that stifled, blocked that creative force in us? Or is it still there?
All the demons are basically in the mind, and we just feed them.
Yes.
And to stifle them, but that causes the opposite effect.
Yes.
And once we actually face it, they're all really imaginary and just blow up.
Yes. So what do these herbs represent that are pounded and sprinkled?
They're like truths.
Okay.
They're truths that we hear.
Right.
That, we add to the very nature, but
It's greater than our conditioning, wouldn't you say? Isn't it?
Mm.
Truth is greater than any conditioning that we've been programmed with, isn't it? Was it explosive for you? Was it explosive?
I think the air just fizzled out.
Right on.
I don't think
It just fizzled. There was not an explosion.
No, just over time.
Yes.
A leak, a slow
A
leak.
slow leak.
Yes.
Yes. And we know it, don't we? We know it.
I think truth is sometimes quieter than the mind, so you have to listen and look for it more deeply.
Absolutely. The dervish that comes in, isn't it? Because in all of these stories, as we well know, every element of them is an aspect of our self. Thank you, thank you.